Megan Fox.
Yeah, Megan Fox has the story.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox writes at PJ Media.
Eat Tucker.
And that was your last.
Damn it, man. I cried for 2 days.
Megan, thank you very much for that.
So, I can explain the bed thing.
If you don't show up and vote, up your ass. I don't care if you're in the hospital. Crawl to the stake. Crawl there.
It's like Jesus going into the temple. He's like, I got a whip. Get out! Get out! The lovely and wonderful Megan Fox. Not that one.
Not that one. Not the weird one that drinks blood in his toe thumb.
Megan Fox.
Megan. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
She's the devil.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
You've never met a like me. You want to tangle? You want to go? Holy sh!
Too much cussing on this. I guess we didn't bleep it, so we got to turn it off. But it's
You pissed off the wrong woman.
oh my God, I have been assaulted when Megan Fox runs wild on you, brother.
She's the devil. Not for publication.
The story.
I'm Megan Fox. Thank you. Cheers.
Hey guys, what's up? What's up? I'm back. Somebody just said you're off work already. Seems like we were just watching you. That was hours ago, folks. It's what time is it? It's 11:19 here. I'm about to give Nikki Rackets a little competition if we go over the midnight hour. Well, that'll be fun. All right, so I just got off work. I didn't even change my work clothes because I want to see part two. I want to see part two of this trial that I am going to cover. I'm still coughing though, so give me a second. You know that I'm recovering from a terrible sinus infection, and so that you're going to have a little bit of that now and then, but I'm ready to go. I should have brought another drink up though because I'm almost done with this. Yes, I'm drinking a Christmas porter. And why am I drinking a Christmas porter? Because Mr. Fox made a pot roast tonight, a beautiful pot roast with carrots and onions and I don't know what else, potatoes. And it was so good. And I didn't eat anything at work so that I could come home and I could eat this pot roast. And I was like, what do I want to drink with it? I want something fallish. I want something a little cold weatherish because it's 48 degrees outside, a little shiver going on. And I look in the refrigerator in the beer fridge and there's a nondescript porter that I didn't know what the flavor was. And then there was a Christmas ale. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going for the Christmas ale. Like, I'm in the Christmas mood. So that's what I'm drinking. I'm drinking a Christmas ale and it's really, really delicious. All right. So I got to tell you, the reason why I'm watching this trial of Maya Kowalski is because this is my area of expertise. I've been waiting my whole life for this trial. I've been waiting my whole life for a trial like this. You know, I'm court adjacent. I like to call myself YouTube, LawTube adjacent because I'm a journalist, if you're not familiar with the show. I am Megan Fox, not the one with the toe thumbs. I am Megan Fox, the journalist. I write columns at PJ Media when I can force myself to type these days. And I spent 20 years investigating court corruption in family court, medical kidnappings by CPS and hospitals. And this case embodies everything that I've dedicated my life to. Right here in this case, Maya Kowalski. Now, if you want the background on this case, I'm going to give you a very short description of what's going on. But in the description of whatever you're watching, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Rumble, we are live on Locals, we are live on Facebook. If you're looking for the description of like the total background, I have linked an article in the description underneath the video. So just hit that and read it if you want a background. I'm going to give you the truncated version, and then we're going to get right back to the plaintiff's case. He is finishing up his opening statements. That's where we left off. And then we're going to hear the defense opening statements. It's going to be, I'm going to get pissed. I feel it. I feel it coming. I'm already getting red. Look at, I'm getting hot under the collar just thinking about listening to these hospital administrators and officials try to explain to a family why they ruined their lives. And when I tell you ruin their lives, this story is so sad of medical kidnapping. It led to the I'm going to say it, I'm demonetized on YouTube, so who the hell cares? Who the fuck cares? I can say fuck now because I'm demonetized anyway, so it doesn't matter. It led to the suicide of Beata Kowalski, Maya's mother. There is no defense for this. That is absolutely right, Kelly C. There is no defense for this. And this might be the first time we get to watch one of these children's hospitals, Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital, get just completely wrecked by a jury, and I can't wait. Now, I'm not going to be able to cover this trial live as it goes. You guys know I am only available on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then I work Wednesday through Sunday at the restaurant at many different times of the day. So I'm not going to be able to cover it live. But what I am going to do is I'm going to promise maybe we'll do live Monday and Tuesday if I have the time. I don't know if I'm going to. If I don't, I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to do highlights with you as much as I can throughout the week. So we may not be watching it live together, but I will watch every minute of this trial, and I will bring you everything that's important. I hope they get wrecked too, Shelby. I hope they get wrecked. I want to say goodnight and hello to my Locals fans over on Locals. MeganFox.locals.com. It is the place to be. Those are my ride or die. If you are my ride or die and you're not on Locals, why? Why are you not over there? You don't have to pay to follow me there and get notifications. This is streaming for free right now on Locals. You only have to be a subscriber if you want to comment or if you want to access some of the paid stuff, which is behind the paywall. And I've got promo codes for you. So if you want a discount on my Locals, you want to join the Ride or Die gang, the Squat Squad, we're over there on Locals, and we love it there. It's a lot of fun. You can post gifts in the chat and stuff. It's so much fun, you guys. So get over there. My promo code for a monthly discount is AJLT. And for a yearly discount, you'll get 2 months free on me. Use promo code SQUATS and get that discount. Are you doing your squats? Are you? Are you though? I was just telling Sally, who's in my Locals chat right now, and Sally's the bomb. She gave me some great stretches to do for my neck issue. I was just telling her I am pain-free. Do you know how long it's been since I've been able to say that I am 100% pain-free with my neck and my pinched nerve problem? I can move. And this is all going back to the restaurant. Going back to waiting tables, walking 10,000 steps a day, my spine is moving and I feel great. I am so happy that I am out of pain. And I've had to cut back on the writing and the sitting in front of a computer, but I'm doing as much as I can on Locals with you guys and firing up the YouTube and the Rumble once in a while. So anyway, welcome. Listen, I've spent 20 years of my life covering cases like these, and there is nothing I like better than to see some retribution and some justice handed out. And I have a good feeling about this because the world is really pissed off at what happened to Maya Kowalski and her family. Right now, there's a Netflix documentary called Take Care of Maya. I haven't watched it yet. I am actually considering doing that on my Locals. And that will be Locals exclusive. We're going to watch that documentary together. I don't know when, but during the coverage of this trial, most likely. And then tonight after this, it depends on how I'm feeling, if I'm getting tired or whatnot. If I'm feeling good tonight on locals exclusive, after this, I'm gonna do more tales from the restaurant because boy do I have some. I do a special series over there where I talk to you about the restaurant industry and me going back to it after 20 years, and I'm waiting tables and my God, the Karens, I can't even begin. Like if you have not been to my Tales from the Restaurant series on locals, you need to check it out. And that's going to be locals exclusive after the show tonight, maybe if I'm still feeling good. I'll let you know. Get your wine, Christy Marie. Get your wine. You're going to need it. We might be in for the long haul. All right. We might be in this tonight all night. I'm giving Rackets. I'm giving Nikki a little competition tonight. Is he going live at 12? If he is, I'm going to send him a text and be like, I'm taking your audience. As if I could gather any of his audience right now. It's okay. It's all right. All right. What are we doing? All right. So I gave you the brief synopsis. We're going to head right over to the opening statements. Right now we are watching. Oh shit! I clicked off of it. That was a mistake. I made a mistake. All right. I may be 2 beers in. I had one at the restaurant. I'm not going to lie. I had my shift drink, and then one at home, and I'm going to hit a third in a second. So hold on here. Where's my history? Dang it. Dang it, Megan. All right, we're getting there. All right, opening statements, part 2. Back up a couple of, I'm going to back up a minute or two so we can hear his full ending here. Now, we are listening right now to the plaintiff, so Maya Kowalski's lawyer, who is delivering opening statements. He's almost finished. We're going to listen to him finish up, and then we're going to hear from the defense, and I can't wait. Can't wait for that because I know I'm going to be pissed. By the way, if you're wondering when this occurred, this was earlier today. So this is happening. It's kicking off right now. As far as I know, I'm the only one covering it in the LawTube adjacent sphere. I'm not sure if anybody else is covering it, but I'm hoping to get Danya Ann in here at some point because I know that this is her area of expertise as well as far as family court issues go. And that's where all of this was before it got to civil court. This is a civil case. This is not criminal, although it should be. It should be. Absolutely it should be. And I don't also understand why the Kowalskis are not also suing the state. They need to get Sean McMillan on this case. Where is Sean McMillan? Because he needs to sue the state, whatever state this is. I don't even know what state they're in. What state are they in? Anybody know what state this is in? I'm going to have to look that up because I don't know. But we need Sean McMillan to get on it and sue CPS because CPS took this child away from her parents and put her in the hospital and they tortured her. It's in Utah? Well, then this is Danya Ann right up. This is Danya Ann's territory. Is she covering this? Anybody know? Danya Ann Direct, is she covering this? God, what? No, now why are you saying Florida? Well, which is it, chat? Florida or Utah? Anybody? Anyway, doesn't matter. It does need more coverage. And well, we're watching Fox 13 and it's Tampa Bay. I mean, we're going to have to look it up. Okay, it's Florida. You're all saying it's Florida. All right, doesn't matter. Danya Ann Direct, this is definitely up her alley. I'm going to send her a note. Maybe I can get her on here at some point during the coverage. It's Flutaw. Billy, I've missed you. Where have you been? Yeah, I'm using the feed from Tampa Bay, but does that mean that's where it's at? Or is it just their feed? I don't know. Hey, share this stream and like it. Like this stream. And by the way, you guys know that YouTube has demonetized me. If you send super chats, I'm feeling pretty feisty tonight. So if we get any $100 super chats, I may just have to go get my shots out. But the super chats don't work on YouTube. Do you know how they work? you got to send Cash App or Venmo. That's right. It's going across the bottom of the screen right now. I'm getting around this YouTube demonetization. You can't keep me down, YouTube. No, you can't. You can get on Cash App, and you've got my little address there running around on the bottom there. It says, not that Megan Fox. That's me on Cash App. And on Venmo, Megan-Fox-89. That's me. All right. Also, if you're on Locals, you can send tips. If you're on Rumble, you can send rants for pants. Hey, Rumble, are you there? Yes, you are. And thank you, SC Medic, for the Rumble rant. Thank you for that. It says, she lives. That's right. I didn't die. The sinus infection did not kill me. I'm on massive doses of antibiotics and prednisone. And you know what? This prednisone is working in your favor tonight because I feel like I could run through a wall right now. So I don't think I'm going to be sleepy anytime soon. All right. Is it cold up here already? 48 degrees, folks. 48 degrees at night. It is so chilly and wonderful. I love it. I love it. I mean, I'm going to miss summer because summer here is so wonderful. But fall is pretty magical here. I'm such a basic white bitch with my with my pumpkin spice colors. I mean, I did my living room in pumpkin spice colors. I can't help myself. It's a white girl thing and we can't help it. So don't judge me, but send rants, send Cash Apps, send Venmos. In fact, I'll open it on my phone. By the way, the Cash App and the Venmo thing, you can send me a message just like a super chat. I will read it on the air. And I'm going to open up the apps now so I don't miss any ding dings. I don't know what I'm saying now. Notifications, ding dings. What am I saying? All right. Awesome. All right. Those are open. I will get those when you send them. Let's go. Let's go. I got to hit play though first.
How long it's going to be and whether.
Wait. Do not tell me to boost the volume. This is court TV. This is court audio. This is as good as it gets, okay? They record this shit with a potato. If you want my advice, get earbuds or your headphones and put them on and jack up your volume as loud as it will go. This is it's not great audio, but it's good enough and I've got subtitles on, so stop complaining. I already feel that the complaints are coming and I'm just cutting you off at the pass. All right, here it comes.
You're going to be able to do anything at home or not. And like I talked about, the aggravation of the pre-existing symptoms and the illness. So then we ask you to consider punitive damages. Our argument is this, that these actions are so completely and utterly.
Yeah, no words. I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
It's designed to deter, not only here, but in the future. And it's designed to punish, right? And so your decision there would be predicated on how much money does it take if we got to that point? What alters behavior of companies like that?
Punitive. Highly punitive.
So,
stick it to him.
That's your job.
He's crying.
Is to figure a little bit out about this.
He's actually choked up.
This. And so I was trying to figure out where the defense is going on this. I think it is that
we're trying to figure that out
from
too.
their doctor's point of view, those doctors in the ER and hospitalists' view, Beata was crazy. And they thought she was going to try to hurt her daughter. And explain, like, mine did not come in with a bruise, a bump, a cut, a scrape, any bad medical tests, no bad blood work. And yet they deduced from their discussions with her over the course of a few hours that it was actually her plan. We will show you that up until this point, periodically through the latter probably 10 years of her life, Beata had periods of anxiety, and she got treated with things like Xanax for that. and she had 2 periods of depression where she had some depression stuff, never long-term and all situational to events in her life. After January of 2016 and her daughter had been through this, she sought counseling and maintained counseling to try to get through what she was going through. We'll have Dr. Tashana Duncan come in. Circumstances about her. She's a PhD psychologist who knew the story and did an intensive amount of research, and she says there was nothing wrong with Beata whatsoever. And not a single psychiatrist or psychologist is going to come in and tell you any different here. And we doubt you're going to hear anything from a psychologist or psychiatrist to say that Maya was making any of this up, or that she was suffering from factitious disorder or conversion disorder. We doubt, seriously, you'll hear that. If the defense does come up with something, listen to my cross. They say that the amount of ketamine that the CRPS doctors were using, and the fact of the ketamine, as they call it, the ketamine coma. It's kind of in this case that's their boogeyman. It's the ketamine coma. You'll hear one of the doctors say that that's the reason why they should be able to take Maya away from the parents, because they didn't think that was that was met the Johns Hopkins standard of care. So because it didn't meet their idea of how to treat CRPS, their argument is that justifies taking the child away. So what else? I think they're going to try to say that because their medical records said CRPS here and there early on and then down the road, that they were justified for billing $536,000 for a disease that they vigorously deny she ever had, and instead was always in her head. I think what they're going to say there is that, well, because some of the treatments we use can be used for CRPS, see, we could bill that. We have a memo, an internal memo, that says that they actually made a conscious decision to up their billing rate to CRPS because it's so much higher. See, CRPS takes a lot of effort to treat. You need occupational therapy, you need warm water therapy, you need physical therapy, you need psychological therapy. You've got a lot of different things that go into it. And so it's very expensive. But if you're just, evidence will show, warehousing the child while billing for CRPS, well. And you'll hear from the actual experts about ketamine infusions, why it takes so many, and what you do to determine dosage. It's called titration. Maya had pre-existing treatment by a drug that broke down the ketamine. So for what us would feel like, a Jimmy Buffett concert level of beers, to Maya would feel like 2 beers. And so that's kind of the relevance of, not a very good one, but the relevance of the ability of the steroids to break down the ketamine internally. Plus, you got to give more to kids than you do to adults. Plus, she was on this medication for about 14 months. And so there's tolerances. So the way the anesthesiologists do it, which is the way all anesthetic is done, is that you titrate up. You start on smaller doses virtually every time, and you increase until the patient has a therapeutic effect. It's taking them out of pain. It's having the right effect on them. There is no evidence anywhere that Maya Kowalski was ever in any danger. Maya Kowalski ever suffered any negative effect whatsoever. The evidence will show it is all speculation on what could possibly happen. And I believe the defense will present themselves as the saviors of this family.
You got 15 minutes left.
What?
Yeah,
15? Thank you. I may not even actually use it all. So we'll lay it out. We'll bring in witnesses to tell you about CRPS. We'll tell you witnesses who spoke with Beata on her dissent to the point where she felt the only way to get her child out of there, the maternal instinct was to kill herself. Take herself out of the picture, daughter released. We'll present the experts on psychiatry, on ketamine, on the use of it. We'll have the doctor flying up, the ketamine comas from Mexico. We will have psychiatrists who have studied this. We'll have the actual therapist at the time. You may actually hear from some of the doctors from the outpatient part of Johns Hopkins and some of the people that were there at the time who have agreed to testify. So we'll do our very best, and we'll try to introduce video and audio and photographic evidence to document every single element of our case. So Nick sort of serves as my walking laptop computer, reminding me of stuff when I forget it.
All right, he's fumbling a little. But don't worry, the jury's fresh. They're not bored yet. They're not falling asleep. It's going to be okay. What is he looking for? Sir, what are you looking for? I need to know his name.
Well, you've been pretty patient here listening to all of this. It's an emotional case. What we will do is try to bring you together. What you do with it is up to you. I will put on the best evidence we can. I'll have a chance to talk to you at the end. Okay? Thank you.
He just he biffed the end of his
members of the jury, in a
statements.
moment, I'm going to
He lost something.
excuse you so you can have your morning recess. I want to remind you, you may not discuss this case amongst yourselves. You may not do the investigation and receive no information. Let's try to keep this to a 15-minute break. If you could follow Deputy Coley out the door, I would appreciate it. Just leave your notes in the Redwell. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to skip past this. We're going to get 15 minutes. Don't worry if you're just joining us, you haven't missed much. I really literally just started playing the second part. If I were you, I would go back and watch it on 1.5 speed. You'll catch up fast enough. You'll catch up quickly. All right, we're skipping ahead.
Yes.
The jury's coming back into the room. I have it on normal speed right now. If they start to get slow, I'll turn it up to 1.5. This did happen earlier today. So we are not live. This is not live, obviously. And it is in Florida. And that's important to note because I have an interesting connection to this in Florida. Child abuse doctors in Florida, like the ones who are on trial here, are notorious for this kind of behavior. And in fact, the Cynthia Absug case actually began in Florida, which is a little known fact of that case.
Okay,
it began with a child abuse doctor in Florida that started with a false phone call on her
jury
that was
I wanna
unfounded.
Confirm while you were away, you did not discuss this case amongst yourselves. You did no investigation and you received no information. Is that all correct? Yeah. That defense, it's your turn.
This is a case about
Morning,
medical
almost
kidnapping,
afternoon.
if you're not familiar. Here comes the defense snake.
My name is Howard Hunter.
There's no
I
excuse
have
for this,
the
Howard.
Privilege of representing Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital and the people who staff it and who make it. We're here today to defend this case. And we appreciate the time and energy that you have put into this effort thus far. You're the most important people here. And we appreciate your attention. We appreciate your commitment both to the trial process and to the process of waiting until you've heard all the evidence before you make a decision or begin to formulate a decision. With me today, first of all, let me introduce my team. With me today are my co-counsels, Pat Crowells, Ethan Shapiro, David Hughes. We also have today a representative from Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, Dr. Anthony Napolitano. See it over there. Dr. Napolitano may, or may not, wind up seeing you as a witness as well. You'll see doctors rotating as corporate representatives during the trial. They've asked to do that for the purpose of being part of the effort to defend the hospital in this matter. The hospital, after all, is not just a big pile of bricks and mortar.
No, it's a bunch of evil
It's
people.
doctors and nurses and people and professionals who run it. And so
With
we're
God
here
complexes.
representing them, although I'll be referring to the institution generally, for brevity's sake, as either ACH
Yeah, he's
or
too
All Children's
he's too
Hospital.
slow.
You may hear Johns Hopkins occasionally, but I've been representing them for a long time, long before they were Johns Hopkins.
We're gonna speed him up a little.
This is a case that has a number of different facets to it. And the circumstances and facts that I'm about to discuss with you constitute our view of the evidence. You just heard Mr. Anderson tell you their view. I'm about to tell you ours. Judge has told you, it's absolutely correct, that what you hear from me is not evidence. It's my view of what the evidence will show. This case involves a number of different facts that occurred over about 18 to 24 months. I can't cover all the details in 90 minutes, and if I did, both you and I would have our heads swimming from the evidence. So I'm going to go over some high points. I'm going to discuss some matters that Mr. Anderson touched upon. And I'm going to ask your indulgence as we fill in the blanks over the next several weeks. This sequence of events began on October 7th, 2017. That's where the plaintiff's case against Johns Hopkins began. Before that, you're going to hear a good bit of evidence about what went before. You're going to hear about the development of Maya Kowalski's disease process. You're going to hear about where else she sought care. You're going to hear a lot about the details of that care and a lot about the problems with it. I'm going to cover some of those in just a moment. The point is, for now, that as of October 7th of 2016, the Kowalskis had been to Johns Hopkins several times. They had entrusted Maya Kowalski's care to us on several different occasions. And in doing so, they had come up from their home in Venice, past Sarasota Memorial, a number of other hospitals, and sought out care from all children. Presumably, we vindicated their trust in doing that, and they came back to see us on October 7th. We had no reason to wish this family harm, and we still don't. Indeed, there's a tragic outcome in this case in terms of Mrs. Kowalski's suicide, and we regret very much that that happened.
Oh, do you?
The issue here, however, is who's responsible for it.
You are.
We're going to go over the
Your
facts of that
client.
and what the facts don't show in terms of any connection between what was done.
She left
by
a
all
note.
children and that tragic result.
She told us what
Now,
caused her to do it.
As
It was the
of
hospital.
October 7th, we had
Ooh, the volume just got better.
Kowalski seeking out
Oh no, turn
care
back towards the
at all
microphone.
children, as I've said. We believe the evidence is going to show you that care was reasonable and necessary and appropriate. And indeed, we're going to suggest to you the evidence I'm about to discuss with you will show that what went before, the treatment that went before, did not necessarily fall into that category. Any of those three categories. And that is the reason, one of the big reasons, that we're here today. Now, as of this date, as of the time that Maya Kowalski was discharged from All Children's, we believe that in fact, she had been set on a path of therapy that has enabled her to resume function, to get out of a wheelchair, to be relatively pain-free, and to be in a situation of participating in her school and in society as she does today. So how did we get there? Well, on October 7th, Maya Kowalski was brought to the emergency room at All Children's. As you've heard, she had bad stomach pain. She was screaming, crying, thrashing around, cursing at staff, very upset, and presenting a very challenging situation for the staff. She had pain in all her extremities. She had her whole body being said to be hypersensitive to any kind of touch. She was unable to walk. She had legs atrophied from disuse, from being in a wheelchair for months at that point, or maybe over a year. She had dystonia, alleged dystonia, different position of her feet, as you've heard. And she was demanding pain medication. Pain medication.
Yeah, seems
large
I
amounts.
would. Would you?
Mrs. Kowalski arrived a while later, and you're going to hear that when she arrived, she forbade the doctors and the nurses.
Because it's excruciating pain for her daughter, you ass.
To assess her, to examine her, to put on a blood pressure cuff, to put on an O2 sat monitor.
Do you know how bad a
take
blood
temperature,
pressure cuff would hurt?
And they wanted to find out why
Shit.
there was all this horrible stomach pain. Was it appendicitis? Was it a torsion of the intestine?
She told you what it was. You didn't believe her.
Or a flat plate of the abdomen or a CT scan could detect. Those questions were being asked. Mrs. Kowalski insisted that before there be any workup of the child, she wanted
Thank you, Kelly.
ketamine. And not just any amount of ketamine. You're going to hear a lot about ketamine in this trial. Ketamine is indeed an old drug. And it's a drug that is approved by the FDA for use as an anesthetic. It is not approved for use in children, nor is it approved for use in high doses as treatment for CRPS.
Well, that's our FDA for you.
That's one of the issues here.
Or whoever does it. Yeah,
ketamine
FDA.
itself, but how it was used.
They want you to
quantity
suffer.
that it was used. Because ketamine is an anesthetic. It is an hallucinogen. It can create dependency.
So what?
It can
Oh my
cause-
God. Oh my God. The same people who created the opioid crisis in this country are actually going to sit there with a straight face and say that because something might create a dependency that they can't give it to you? Fuck you. You created how many millions of people addicted to opioids? You doctors and big pharma. Oh, shut up. Shut up.
Cause depression of vital signs. If not properly monitored, it can cause serious injury, life-endangering consequences.
Why wouldn't you properly monitor it then? Just properly monitor it and you'll be fine.
Mrs. Kowalski on this day was challenging the staff to give her daughter a dose of 1,500 milligrams of ketamine. That is a big dose. That dose you're going to
Was
hear
working, ass.
is several times, many times, the maximum dose that policies at all children's approve. You're going to hear experts tell you that is many times any kind of safe dose. And you're going to hear the ER doctor who was on duty that day, Dr. Layla Behar Posey, who you're here for by deposition because unfortunately she's no longer with us. And I mean that in this life. She'll appear by deposition.
Did the hospital kill her too?
You will hear her tell you what she did and why she did it.
Why isn't she with us?
Hear her tell you most pertinently that even if she was so inclined to give that much ketamine in the emergency room where she didn't have sufficient monitoring availability, she didn't have the capacity for long-term wake up and intubation. She for that period of time.
Oh, hold on. Why didn't she have long-term monitoring capability? Excuse me? At Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital, they didn't have the capability for long-term monitoring. So you call the cops and CPS on a mother and her kid and you separate them because you don't have the proper monitoring shit? Oh my God. Please tell me if you're on the jury, this is what you're hearing. And I am saying, I'm sticking to my original story that this is an uphill battle for the plaintiff because none of these cases, they all get thrown out against hospitals and negligence. And the reason is that our court system, who is in bed with big hospitals and big pharma and big everything else, they do not want to see a $200 million punitive payout go out to one of these families that these people chronically do this to, and they do it all the time. And if they start letting juries punish these hospitals, well, they're going to have to stop doing that shit, aren't they? They're going to have to knock it off, aren't they? And there's too much money involved. So this is going to be an uphill battle for the plaintiff because I'm telling you, the powers that be do not want these hospitals held accountable. Hell no. Do you think they want you to hold them accountable for killing your mother? when she had COVID and they intubated her when they shouldn't have, and actually like exploded her lungs or gave her worse COVID? Do you think that they want to be sued and have to pay out millions for giving people that, whatever was that stupid drug they were giving them that was making everything worse? Remdesivir? Think they want to be sued for that, for killing a couple 100,000 people unnecessarily with COVID when they didn't need to, putting them on ventilators when we found out like a month later that, oh God, the ventilators are killing people. How many people did they kill? Did they get held accountable? No. You start holding these hospitals accountable for this kind of shit, and it's all over. It's going to come crumbling down, which it should, because our healthcare system is shit.
Didn't have the facility she needed to do that. Even if she was inclined to give it, which she wasn't, she couldn't safely do it in that setting. Now you're going to see that Dr. Behar Posey is not just a newbie out of medical school. You'll hear in her deposition what her qualifications are. You'll hear that she's board certified in pediatrics as well as emergency medicine. She's confronted a lot of patients, difficult patients in extreme pain. You're going to hear that this patient, as far as she was concerned, had some degree of uniqueness in that she'd never seen anything quite like this. And she'd never heard of these doses of ketamine. What she found out ultimately.
You know what she could have done? She could have called the doctor that was actually treating Maya with that dose and getting good results. That doctor tried to put his information into the record, and he with the investigation, and he wasn't allowed. So do you think they did any investigation into that dose? I mean, I don't blame them for being like, that's a really high dose. We can't give her that without doing some research on this. Who did you see before? I want to call that guy. I want to talk to him. Let's consult with him and see if he's a quack or not. Maybe he could show us the records. I know he tried. So this is bullshit. It's bullshit.
And what developed over the next few days, and actually the next few weeks, is that Maya Kowalski had been given thousands, tens of thousands of milligrams of ketamine over the preceding 9 months. Her doctor, Dr. Hannah, had given her the day before admission 1,250 milligrams of ketamine. And at that time, he's going to testify to you that he told the mother he was no longer comfortable giving that much ketamine, that it was too much for him to give in his outpatient clinic. And he actually sent her to All Children's. You're going to hear
But he wanted her to have the same dose.
That he had given her a gradually increasing doses of ketamine, 12, 15, over 20 milligrams per kilogram per hour, which is dozens of times the safe and effective dose that was approved by the hospital and that is talked about by the FDA, and that it's never been written up in the literature. You'll hear Dr. Hannah say, either by deposition or by admission on that witness stand, that this was at or near the highest per capita dosage he had ever given any patient. It wasn't working. So what had happened was that he had maxed out with this ketamine dosage.
What had happened was, look, you know what? Maybe the dose was too high, but you don't call the cops. Like, you just don't call the cops and destroy people's lives and kidnap their child. Like, it's insane. And even if you did, because they're going to say that even if they have the slightest hint of abuse, they have to do it. Fine. They have to do it. They had to call. You don't then torture this kid and pretend like she doesn't have a medical problem, only to come to the same conclusion that her mother came to. I mean, this is nuts.
He had sent her to All Children's. And Mrs. Kowalski, despite what he had told her, despite what had happened over the last 9 months, was demanding even more. Dr. Posey heard this story from the mother. She heard how much ketamine that the mother said Dr. Hannah was giving. She heard what the mother was demanding. She saw what was going on with this child. She'll tell you what her suspicions were about the child's condition and what was actually causing it. But she called Dr. Hannah's office herself. Now, she learned that he gave 1,250 milligrams. She learned what else had happened the day before. And so she decided that she would attempt to stabilize the child. She literally she'll tell you about literally negotiating with the mother to give a small dose of ketamine and some sedative to conduct an examination, to admit the child to the pediatric intensive care unit. You'll hear it called the PICU. And the idea that she had at that time was, let's get her in the PICU, let's get her evaluated by pain management, let's see what's really going on here, let's get her stabilized, and then let's see if we can wean her down off all this medication she's been given. So she admitted her to the PICU. And Maya Kowalski was taken up to the PICU 4, and that process, in fact, began after consultations were placed by the PICU staff to have her see anesthesiology, pain management, and psychiatry, as well as to do some more diagnostic
Psychiatry.
studies. So what was being done here at this point? What was reasonably prudent with what these physicians knew and what they knew it? What was happening was that they had a child being given levels of medication that they had never heard of before, that the literature did not support, that the literature didn't even mention. And so they put her in a safe environment. They attempted to get her stabilized. They called the correct consultations, and they tried to investigate what was going on. We will suggest to you, the evidence will suggest, and the experts will say that that was a perfectly reasonable thing to do. There's no conspiracy here. It was an effort to safeguard this child and to see that she got appropriate therapy going forward, whatever that happened to be. Now, you'll hear that the admission diagnosis that was recognized at that time by Dr. Behar Posey and ultimately by Dr. Teta Sanchez was CRPS, chronic regional pain syndrome. There were other suspicions, and you'll hear about those too. But for now, I want you to focus on what CRPS allegedly has as its features, according to Dr. Kirkpatrick and what you just heard from Mr. Anderson. It's lifelong. It's incurable. It can wax and wane. It can return at any time for any reason or no reason at all. It can cause a whole host of symptoms. And according to Dr. Kirkpatrick, who's the one who diagnosed it to begin with, it's incurable. It's always going to recur. It always requires ketamine. Now, if there's any suggestion made that Dr. Kirkpatrick wanted to try alternative therapy first and had some regard for what the previous doctors had done, we're going to invite you to listen to the evidence about that, and to look at the evidence about that, and see how much was done, how much was actually attempted. We believe the evidence is going to be that that wasn't something that was given a really fair, appropriate trial before ketamine was used. You're going to see, ultimately, Dr. Kirkpatrick, when this child was in the hospital in October and November of 2016, told Mrs. Kowalski that unless Maya Kowalski got more of his ketamine treatments, more of these high doses, that she would die a slow and painful death. Well, thankfully, he was wrong.
Oh, they're going to say they saved her life.
And we think he will continue to be wrong. At this point, it's well to walk the clock back a little bit. I want to ask you to look at the evidence as you receive it on a comparative basis with these ideas in mind. You're going to hear, and you heard already, some recording from Dr. Kirkpatrick's first visit with Maya Kowalski and her family in September 23rd to be exact, of 2015. I want to focus for a minute on her condition at that time, what the evidence will show that.
I can't believe he's speaking so
wheelchair
slow.
bound. Her legs had atrophied. Saw the picture that Mr. Anderson showed you. Her legs and arms were hypersensitive to touch. She had limited use of most of her arms due to pain. You're going to see more of that. You're going to hear about pain in other parts of her body, alleged dystonia. She wasn't in school. She wasn't functional. She couldn't walk. She couldn't do her own ADLs. She had no normal function at that time. You're going to hear evidence that she came to that point from several admissions, primarily for asthma at all children's, but they also concerned a number of admissions at other institutions. Now, Mr. Anderson has mentioned to you what the evidence is going to show about Lurie Children's Hospital, where she was taken by Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski, Tampa General Hospital, Sarasota Memorial Hospital. She had been seen as an outpatient by the first physicians group here in Sarasota, the Sarasota Memorial Group. She had seen some physicians from Lee County. There was over 40 specialists that she had seen before she found her way to Dr. Kirkpatrick's office. And all of those specialists, many of those specialists that weren't concerned primarily with asthma, felt that in her presentation, some of them were seeing her for asthma, felt that in her presentation, there was some psychogenic component of some sort. And there were words like conversion disorder, psychological component. There was even one at that early point who was concerned about Munchausen by proxy. What I'm suggesting to you is all children didn't blaze this trail. We just walked it. We found it on our own, but we walked it. So did these other folks, all 40 of them. And actually, the number's about 48.
LOL,
Point is,
Delia.
that was not an unreasonable thing for Johns Hopkins to ultimately come around to believing and come around to suspecting, because many others had suspected the same thing. The recommendations for treatment of this disease, of the diseases that were suspected before Dr.
Wait. The argument is,
physical-
look, here's a list of all the doctors who are also wrong. God, wait. Here, look at my list. Look at this PowerPoint slide. Here are all the doctors who got it wrong too. This gives us the right to get it wrong. Because all these doctors are also fucking wrong. She does not have a psychological disorder. She has a rare condition. Here, but here's the list of all the doctors who also are idiots. So, who are negligent. Oh my God.
Therapy, psychological and cognitive behavioral therapy, sustained, long-term, intensive. That was back then. That's pretty much the therapy that Dr. Kirkpatrick rejected, because he began the course of ketamine. When Dr. Kirkpatrick saw her on September 23rd, you'll hear him say, I believe. He didn't care what the other doctors said. He didn't care what the records showed. He didn't review the records. He never contacted them. He never talked to them. There was no discussion in which he said, gee, I think it's this. I'm a specialist in this. You're a specialist in pediatrics. Let's reconcile our differences of opinion. Didn't do that. Instead, he diagnosed chronic regional pain syndrome. He's the first one to do it. And he began therapy, ketamine therapy.
But he was right.
You heard counsel talk
That's what
about
she has.
what the evidence is going to show Dr. Kirkpatrick did. Dr. Kirkpatrick will say in this courtroom, or by deposition 1, that he began this child on a 4-day treatment of high-dose ketamine, what he considered to be high dose. You're going to hear, incidentally, that Dr. Hannah's high doses were multiple times what she was given by Dr. Kirkpatrick. He gave her 4 consecutive days of ketamine, and his records say that there was minimal effect. Minimal effect. He used opioids and narcotics to try to control her pain after those treatments. And we believe the evidence will show that as a result of those things, she wound up at All Children's Hospital with stomach pain and horrendous constipation. That was going to happen again and again following large doses of ketamine and other drugs. She was being harmed.
That's true. That can happen.
But in September and then in October, when Dr. Kirkpatrick treated her with high-dose ketamine, he prescribed more yet. And so she went to Mexico.
Opioids can cause
see
those stomach
Dr. Cantu.
problems. That's true.
I
I blame Pfizer.
Dr. Cantu's going to be here. Dr. Cantu, in his deposition, described to us what his regimen of ketamine consisted of down in Monterey. It's a treatment that is not approved in this country. He developed
That means
it from a trial
nothing.
in Germany. I'll tell you that. It contemplates giving the patient 7 to up to 9 milligrams per kilogram per hour for several days and keeping them in a coma with intubation for that period of time. He's going to tell you that it's a risky procedure.
Of course
He's
it's
gonna tell you
risky.
that he tells his patients that there is a 50% risk of death from that procedure.
Of
He's
course.
going to say he's never lost anybody.
Do you know how many things
Listen to the
carry a big
cross-examination
risk?
of Dr. Cantu about the dangers of that treatment, the degree of ketamine that was used, how it was used, and what his expectations of success were.
I just want to say that even if he was wrong and the ketamine was the wrong treatment, or maybe the dosage was wrong, the way that Johns Hopkins handled this is not the way you handle a disagreement in treatments. No fucking way. Especially when, I'm sorry, Mom, I shouldn't swear so much. Especially when you have a complex syndrome that hardly anybody understands. And clearly her parents love her and want her to get better. You keep them in the loop, you keep them part of the group, and if you need to keep her in the hospital, you keep the family as a unit with, to support and help, and that's their job. Their job is not to rip the child away from the family and pretend like there's some kind of horrific abuse going on instead of just extreme confusion and trauma because you have a very sick child. What they did, he's going to confuse the issue. I see what he's doing already, and he's probably going to do a good job of it. And God, pray for this jury that they see through it. What he is going to do is take a usual argument between doctors and turn it into, well, we are justified in doing what we did because we were so concerned that her mother was really the root of the problem. Not that this doctor just disagreed with us. I mean, come on. If you are the parent of a kid like this, of course you're going to sign a paper that says there's a 50% chance your kid could die because there's also a 50% chance that this will cure her. Of course you're going to sign that. Of course you're going to let that happen if you've tried everything else and your child screams in pain every time you touch her. What? It's completely understandable. So even if the ketamine treatment was wrong, even if the ketamine treatment didn't actually work, there's no excuse for this. None. Yeah, trying to pass the buck because it's not like Johns Hopkins got it right either because they said she had a psychological disorder. They tortured her. They put her in a room with a camera and they put the toilet far enough away where she couldn't get to it because they thought she was lying about being able to walk. She couldn't walk. They had nurses and social workers sending emails to each other saying that she was better off after her mother killed herself. These are not good people. Do not let them fool you.
Because those expectations were not realized. And that's a key factor. Because what is going to happen here is that this child was given the same thing over and over and over and over again in increasing quantities. And the first thing that didn't ultimately work was Dr. Cantu's treatment. She had to go back down to Mexico for a ketamine booster.
Who did this? Who did this PowerPoint? Look at this. Who's spending the time making a cutesy medical folder with a little paper clip at the top? Who did this? And look at this thing. Look at this, the binder clip. A binder clip and a paper clip. Like they had somebody sit around and add this clip art to this little, all right, I need you to create a hospital folder. This is so cutesy for this tragic thing. And what's wrong with just a couple of bullet points, fellas? This pisses me off right here. Like we're getting cutesy with the PowerPoint, really? Are you trying to make me, you're just trying to make me like you as a hospital because you do good graphics or something? Like this is making it worse. Sorry.
Cantu will tell you that that's fairly usual, that happens, and that then he expects them to be pain-free for a number of weeks or months. Listen to what Dr. Cantu tells you about whether he knew anything about what happened after this. Because what happened after this was...
Why isn't this full screen?
Maya Kowalski was taken back to this country.
What the hell?
She was taken to see Dr. Hanna.
There we go.
Dr. Hanna embarked on a course of ketamine treatment beginning in January of 2016 and extending to the door of all children on October 7th, 2016. 9 months of therapy, 55 treatments, an average of 1 a week or more. 55 treatments of ketamine, multiple times in excess, not just of what the doses recommended by the manufacturers, not just in excess of those, not just in excess of Johns Hopkins All Children's policy, multiple times in excess of what Dr. Kirkpatrick gave, multiple times in excess of what Dr. Cantu gave. You may even hear Dr. Cantu admit that he wouldn't give those doses in the circumstances that Dr. Hanna did. You may hear him say that he never gave them, period. all those doses of ketamine and all that therapy and all those drugs over that 9 months, over that 13 months, we're going to ask you to look at the evidence and look at what the evidence shows about the result. The evidence shows that as of this October 7th, 2016, once again, Maya Kowalski is wheelchair bound. She's hypersensitive. She's unable to use her arms and legs. She's got chronic extreme complaints of pain. She's got leg atrophy and said to have this done. And in that year, incidentally, she gained 4 pounds. Think about that. You're going to hear more about that because Dr. Hanna will tell you that he recognized that his patient was malnourished. Over that period of time, over a year, she gained 4 pounds. Now, she also, at All Children's, was on 21 different medications as of October 7th, 2016. 21 different medications. Let's compare for a moment what the evidence shows regarding Maya Kowalski's condition at the time of her first appointment with Dr. Kirkpatrick and the time she's admitted to All Children's a year later. The evidence will show that she was in essentially the same condition, in addition to the problem she was having when she saw Dr. Kirkpatrick back in September 2015. In addition, she was malnourished. You'll also hear evidence that during that same period of time, there were October 7th was a
It's not me, it's the court
complaint of extreme stomach
court
pain
audio.
following doses, high doses of ketamine and other drugs. We suggest to you the evidence will show that she was being harmed by these large doses of medication. The evidence will show you that the doctor's concern about how much she was being given and the frequency with which she was being given it was very well placed and is vindicated by what happened later. Let's take that comparison one step further. We believe the evidence is going to show you that between the time that Maya Kowalski was seen on October 7th in the ACH emergency room and the time she was discharged 3 months later, she had gained 4.5 pounds, which is...
Hey guys, do me a favor. Those of you on Rumble who are watching live right now, hit that thumbs up right now. Do it now. Rumble is kicking YouTube's ass right now. So YouTube, you can hit that thumbs up if you want, but Rumble's kicking your ass. And locals, thanks for being here. And if you're on Rumble, go hit that red join button. Go join my locals so you can get all the notifications and everything for when I'm live. Do it now. Do it now for the algorithm. Thank you.
More than she had gained in net weight gain in the last year before admission. She was still in a wheelchair, but she wasn't complaining of extreme pain constantly. She was comfortable. She was using her arms, and we believe she was improved. There will be evidence you hear from the witness stand about her condition at the time of discharge versus her condition at the time of admission. But perhaps more telling is the condition under which she was discharged. At that time, she went from 21 medications down to 3. And at that time, she began a course of physical therapy and counseling.
Hold on. 89 people watching on Rumble and 19 likes. I'm very disappointed in you. It's time for a mom shaming. Excuse me a moment. Excuse me. But I will pull this stream over and we will not go a moment further until the likes are matching the watches. Do you understand me? Do you hear me? I will grab the chancla. I will pull over. I will spank you. Now let's get this together, people. How do we have 89 people watching and 19 thumbs up? This is very disappointing. Do not make me call your father. Do not make me tell him what you have done. This is insane. No. I'm pulling the stream over right now. If we don't get some more likes in this house on, let's see, how are we? We're still at 19? I don't believe it. 86 of you? 86 of you. What, are your thumbs broken? Your little thumbs are too weak from all the gaming you've been doing and all the scrolling, all the doom scrolling on Instagram? You can't pick up your little thumb and hit the thumbs up like button thing? like what have you been doing with your thumbs all day? You could do something good with them right now. You could help the algorithm. You could get us on the front page of Rumble. But what are you doing with your thumbs? I better see some more likes coming on this Rumble stream right now, folks. We still haven't got more than 19. I hope to God that my screen is just not uploading or refreshing or something, and that cannot possibly be true. Maybe Rumble is messing with me, because how the heck? Oh, you see 22? All right, well, it's still terrible. That's still terrible. I still see 19 every time I hit refresh. It's not going up. I don't know. That depresses me. Should I just quit? Should we just quit doing this? For God's sake, don't make me pull the stream over and hit the thumbs up. You think Rumble's broken with the thumbs up? Well, it seems to be broken on my end because I'm not seeing it go up. All right, I won't yell anymore. It looks like we're up to at least 25, but geez, guys, 89 of you watching and 25 likes? Don't you like me anymore? Is it because I left YouTube? Is it because, although I'm still on YouTube, there's only 32 of you on YouTube. I wonder if, hey, I'm going to find out if YouTube is kicking Rumble's ass on likes. How many likes do we have on YouTube? I don't know. I'm not even looking at I am not even looking at the thing. Oh, I see. You're all over on Rackets stream. Is that what's happening? Is that what's going on? Oh my God, YouTube is beating Rumble in the likes. There are 57 likes over on YouTube and only 30 watching. Now that is something. You know what you just did, YouTube? You made sure I was not going to kick YouTube off tonight. I can't, because you're beating Rumble with the likes. You're not beating with the views, but you're beating with the likes, and you know, it's good for the algorithm. What the hell, Rumble? 91 of you now, and we're only up to 28. You can't even beat YouTube? You call yourself a free speech platform? Come on now. It's the platform of choice, but you can't hit the thumbs up? Jeez. All right, I'm going to be checking back in on you in a minute. I'm going to be checking back in. We're not letting this go. Nope. But we are going to go back over to the opening statements. Let's go. Well, how did I get down there? I'll fix it in a minute.
That, by the following school year, had her back in school.
No, I don't
pretty
like
much
that.
the regimen that was recommended for her at all children's. That was pretty much the regimen that could have been given her earlier and sustained, and perhaps saved her a lot of anguish and pain, and perhaps this lawsuit. She got her physical therapy. She got counseling. Pain medications were withdrawn. You may very well hear that to this day she's on no pain medication. Now, you heard it suggested by counsel that she couldn't take ketamine. Indeed, when she was discharged, the court of this circuit, not this judge. Objection.
All right, we got an objection here. Christy, no. Oh, hold on. I just stepped on I gotta move that thing. I just stepped on my, oh God, the whole studio is now gone crazy. I just stepped on my, what do you call it? Power strip. And I turned off the power strip. I swear to God, that is not what I did earlier today. This is a totally different thing. I have got to move that power strip. I just lost my second monitor and my light. Ah, jeez. Oh, God. At least the camera stayed on. All right. That was a boomer move. I stepped on my power strip. Christy sent a Venmo, a huge Venmo, $25 Venmo. Thank you so much. She said she sent it to shame the Rumble chat. Thanks. She's in my my locals crew. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. There's been an objection now. We'll see what happens here.
What's the legal basis? Motion eliminate.
Oh, motion in limine. What did he mention?
Directed
Okay.
her discharge.
Hold on.
She could not be discharged without
Oh,
court.
all right. What he had said was that she that we will show that she's not on any medication now and basically followed the same pain plan that we were suggesting without the ketamine, and she's not on any pain meds anymore. And if we had done that earlier, we could have saved her a lot of, I don't know, heartache or whatever. And there was an objection because he's saying something that he was prohibited from saying in a motion for limine. Now, it is true, from what I understand, that she got onto a physical therapy regimen and is not using ketamine anymore. But frankly, I don't think that's the point of this. I don't think that's the point of this case. I don't think the point is that the remedy she was using or that her doctor had suggested, I don't think it's the point that it didn't work or it did work. I think the point is how Johns Hopkins managed this case and how they managed the information they had and what they did to the family in the process. Her mother committed suicide and she left a note. I mean, obviously we're open to all the facts here, and I want to hear what the facts are and who's telling the truth. But I do not like what has been reported that Johns Hopkins did. And by the way, after covering so many stories like this, including Justina Pelletieri in her case, Cynthia Absug in her case, Rachel Bruno in her case, after covering so many of these medical malpractice kidnapping cases, I can say they're lying. Okay, I'm just telling you that whatever they're saying, don't believe it. Don't believe. Yeah, Shelby, thank you. The point is that the hospital stole a child from her parents. They want to talk about what the family could have done that would have saved her heartache or whatever. What could the hospital have done to save this family some heartache? What could they have done? Where is their responsibility? What was their responsibility to keep a family together, a traumatized family together? What was their responsibility to the child and her parents? Instead, they accused her perfectly sane mother of being crazy. They drove her mother to suicide, and then they laughed about it afterwards. So I'm sorry for just those facts alone. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Pay big money. Just saying.
And she was discharged with instructions as to what medication she could have at that time. She could not have ketamine. She could not have heavy analgesics without the court's intervention. That matter was dismissed several months later after she did well in her father's custody. She's free to get whatever she wants today. For the present, let me just mention this.
I'm going to do my nails.
You're going to hear a lot more about it. Once the court entered an order following a report of child abuse that she was to be sheltered at All Children's under the custody of the Department of Children and Families, All Children's Hospital did not have the ability to discharge her without court approval, even if it wanted to. You're going to hear evidence. You're going to hear evidence from DCF personnel who will tell you.
That's why they should be suing DCF too.
Set the visitation parameters.
That's why they should be suing the
ones
state.
That decreed who she could see, when
they
she
should
could
be
see
co-defendants.
What she could have,
Yep.
what she could have in her room.
I don't know why they're not. I don't know why they're not.
The hospital, unfortunately,
serving
was
them
put
too.
in the position of having to implement those orders. That's what we tried to do. But throughout this case, we're going to ask you to try to avoid conflating what was done by the court or ordered by the court with what was done by the hospital, because the hospital's not the court. The hospital's not DCF. The hospital has to follow that, and the hospital doesn't institute that. The court and DCF do. Now, I digressed a little bit there, but I want you to pay attention, I'm sure you will, to what the evidence will show regarding Maya Kowalski's condition today. At the head of her class at Venice High School, she's real close. She served in her student government. She works out. She's on track to get a high school diploma and an AA degree.
All right, you guys want to know what nail color? It's fall, so I'm probably going to go for red. It's like a deep red. Or I might gold. Gold is usually my summer go-to. The other colors that I have are kind of like candy colors. So they're more summery. Or my other choice is, what's the other choice? No, that lavender's too. Hot pink. No, these are all summer colors. I think I'm going to go with just a classic dark red. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
On time. She's dating. She's unassisted.
It's not me. Again, it's the court audio.
To some appearance, she's doing very well, and we hope it stays that way. Now let's walk back the clock once again to October 7th, 2017. Describe what kind.
Jeez,
Hear
court
more about
audio
that from
killing me.
Nurse witnesses. Mike Kowalski was admitted to the PICU. We talked about that. Sanchez was the one on duty that night. You'll see. We're going to tell you what her credentials are and her board certification in pediatrics and intensive medicine. She will tell you that what she did was attempt to understand what.
Wait, I changed my mind. I'm going to do a chameleon color. It is like a dark brown with gold. So when it's cold, it turns gold. And when it's warm, it turns like a dark brown. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I forgot about that one. All right. Not that you wanted to know that.
What was going on with this child? And you'll see her, and you'll hear her walk through her admission history and physical, and that she did into the records that were available of previous encounters. You'll see her discharge summary, and you'll see the care that she took to track down what this patient's history was. And you'll see that when she did that, and she was able to get the child admitted and sedated and started stabilizing, that she did call appropriate consultations. She did get pain management and anesthesiology involved. She did call psychiatry. And because of her concern, you'll hear that she also called a pediatric child abuse expert, Dr. Sally Smith.
How much you want to bet?
Dr. Smith is the head, the medical director of the child protection team.
How much you want to bet that this child abuse doctor studied with another child abuse doctor that I know from Florida, a notorious Dr. John Wright. Dr. John Wright is he considers himself a national expert on Munchausen syndrome by proxy. He is the one that started the problem in Cynthia Absug's case in Broward County, Florida. He trains other child abuse doctors to accuse mothers and mothers only women of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Now, if you have been a fan of this program, you know that we watched Dr. John C. Wright. I think his middle initial is C. We watched Dr. John Wright. Is that right? Yeah, John Wright. We watched him give a training. And my head was exploding throughout the entire thing because he has no evidence as to why he picks these women to accuse of child abuse. There's no science behind it. It's simply his gut feeling, and it's always the mother, never a father. Munchausen syndrome by proxy is an incredibly interesting mental disorder that only affects women. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar? Like, oh, I don't know, hysteria. You know, you guys, this is quack science at its worst. And I bet I'm going to do some research and find out if this doctor studied with John Wright.
The CPT for DC, or excuse me, the Division Department of Children and Families. I just gave away my age, by the way. They used to call it the 70s. But in any event, you'll hear she contacted Dr. Smith to say, basically what's going on here. Can you check this out? And you'll hear that Dr. Smith did. You'll hear that Dr. Smith was not an employee of All Children's Hospital. She was not part of the treatment team, but she was there as a resource. And you'll see over time, and we'll talk about this again in a minute, in connection with her duties with DCF and the team. She was not an employee of All Children's and never held herself out as such. And you may hear from Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski themselves that they knew that from day one. Now, I mentioned that Dr. Sanchez got her colleagues involved. One of those colleagues you'll hear from, Dr. Richard Elliott, is a board-certified anesthesiologist in pediatrics. He will be here and testify about what he found, what his interactions with Ms. Kowalski were, and how he believed this child needed to be weaned off of high-dose medication and weaned off of the regimen she had been on. You'll also hear from Dr. Jenny Dolan. She's in the same discipline. She too had interactions, and you'll hear from both those doctors that during the time they were caring for this patient, they were having a problem with what Mrs. Kowalski wanted. Mrs. Kowalski wanted an intrathecal pain pump placed in her daughter's spine to deliver a medication called clonidine, powerful drug, into her spinal canal. She was told that was a bad idea by the doctors at All Children's. She was told the same thing by doctors at Nemours. Indeed, you're going to hear Dr. Kirkpatrick tell her that's a bad idea. She was insistent upon asking for that over and over. She was talking about taking her daughter back to Mexico and Italy for more high-dose ketamine that she had just come off of, and that the doctors at All Children's felt weren't working. And frankly, we would suggest to you the evidence suggests weren't working. The plan of care that the doctors wanted to pursue was consultation, weaning of the medications, appropriate care, and ultimately transfer. Now, I'm going to go past the slide on Dr. Smith here and go fast forward here, because I want to talk about several specific allegations that have to do with the sequence of events and what the evidence is going to show you about that sequence of events. This child was admitted with a consent form agreeing to treatment signed off by Mr. Kowalski on October 7th of 2000.
You can't get into a hospital unless you sign that thing.
By that Sunday,
nobody agrees
family, particularly Mrs. Kowalski,
nobody agrees to let you do anything you want to. It's just you're agreeing to consent to treatment, but you're supposed to agree to the treatment. Like, that doesn't mean I just sign all my rights away, does it? Because if you don't sign it, you don't get treatment.
Wanted to leave. They were being dissuaded from that. They'll tell you that on the morning of October 10th or 11th, they were told they couldn't leave. I'm going to invite you to listen to what the evidence will show about that encounter. We believe the evidence will show, and you hear Mr. Kowalski say that no one ever told him he could not leave All Children's Hospital. At that time, with the threats being made by the mother to find more high-dose, dangerous ketamine, that it was able and warranted for the doctors to decline that if they had chosen to do so. We don't believe they did. We think that the evidence is more persuasive and shows you that there was a convocation of folks on the morning of October 10th or 11th at which there was discussion of the plan, there was discussion of the weaning, there was discussion of stabilization, the plan being, let's get her weaned off this medication safely, and then let's transfer her to an institution where more intensive physical therapy, more intensive occupational therapy is available. The evidence will show you that All Children's Hospital was not. We were trying to get her stabilized and transferred to somewhere where she could get the help that she needed. And you're going to see somewhere was identified by Dr. Michelle Smith and others as Nemours Children's Hospital. Brief look at Dr. Smith's qualifications. You're going to hear from her from the witness stand. Dr. Smith is presently our chief of staff. She's also a board certified pediatrician and intensivist. She came into this case on October 9th, and she, from the outset, began the transfer of the patient. Now, there's her plan of care. That's what she wanted to pursue. And she tried to get it done with a transfer to PICU to Nemours. She felt at the time that if she transferred the child to Nemours, the intensive pain management program could begin while the child was still an inpatient. Nemours declined the transfer.
Good night, Tammy.
She didn't stop, though. Someone skipped past this slide because we pretty much covered it. She didn't stop. After that discussion at which the family agreed to stay, and you're going to see multiple sources of documentation of that, after that discussion, she took it upon herself to call Nemours again. And she called a doctor named Lisgelia Santana Rojas. You're going to hear that Dr. Santana Rojas, and you're going to hear from her, we believe, by Zoom. You're going to hear Dr. Santana Rojas verify what she was told or what she told Mrs. Kowalski and what Dr. Smith will say.
Oh,
she
so
told
worried
Mrs.
mom makes another phone call.
And that's
So
basically
let's
it.
drive her to suicide. Yeah, that makes sense.
She said that the Moors wouldn't take, but that Dr. Santana Rojas operated an outpatient pain management clinic, specializing in pediatrics because that's all the Moors does, just like all children. All we treat is pediatrics, all they treat is pediatrics. In their pain management program, they treat CRPS. You'll hear Dr. Santana Rojas describe that she told Mrs. Kowalski that. You'll hear her say that she was asked by Mrs. Kowalski, if I go over there, if I come to your program, will you put in an intrathecal pain pump? And Dr. Santana Rojas said, no, we won't do that. That's not part of our program. That's dangerous. Against your daughter's interest. But what we will do, without ketamine, without analgesia, what we will do is give her intensive physical, occupational, and behavioral therapy. And I'm going to replicate with her the program I trained in at Boston Children's Hospital, Harvard Medical School. I've replicated that program here, and we're getting very good results. If you bring your daughter over here as an outpatient, we'll put her in our program. You hear Dr. Smith pretty much tell you the same thing. A lot's going to say about this, but I know what Dr. Smith's going to say. And it's this. Dr. Smith left the hospital that day thinking she had a deal. She thought, okay, we're going to get this child weaned and stable, and then we're going to transfer her as an outpatient in her family's custody to the Moors pain management. Now, you see, at this point, on October 11th, 2016, there had been a report accepted to DCF. There had been an investigation started, but nothing really had taken place. There had not been no court order.
Once an investigation is over, I mean, open, it's over. They're going to come.
At this point, on October 11th, all Children's Hospital and its staff were attempting to facilitate Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski taking their daughter out of all children and taking her as an outpatient for treatment at the Moors. To you that if that had happened, we would not be together today. The evidence will show that if that had happened, it's reasonable to think that none of this would have occurred. We believe that had that occurred, it never brought us together. That's not what happened. When Dr. Smith arrived back, Mrs. Kowalski wanted to take Maya Kowalski to Dr. Hannah for more ketamine, that she wanted to seek an intrathecal pain catheter elsewhere, that she wanted to obtain more ketamine elsewhere, and that there was still discussion of Mexico or Italy. Shortly after that, there was a shelter order. At that point, the circumstances under which Maya was a patient at All Children's were not dictated by the hospital, they were dictated by the court and DCF. Now, the situation proceeded with the weaning completed at All Children's. All Children's, the evidence will show, attempted to get this child the physical therapy on an inpatient basis that it could provide. We didn't think it was enough, but we did what we could. She got some behavioral therapy, although not the kind that she needed. We didn't have it available. That's why we wanted to transfer her. But you'll see as you go forward and you hear witness after witness and you look at the hospital
Critter
chart,
Watcher, that's
you're
why
going
they
to
should be
see
part of
that
this.
over and over and over again. We weren't warehousing this child voluntarily. You'll see it noted over and over. Medically cleared for discharge, awaiting court disposition.
Oh, not giving her back to her parents, though.
Close of all, the evidence will tote up for you the number of times that appears in the record.
Awaiting court disposition.
But we're going to suggest to you the evidence is going
Be
to be
waiting
conclusive
forever.
that there was never any fault imprisonment of this child's children's hospital.
This is a mistake not to sue the state. It's a mistake.
I want to talk before I get into disease versus syndrome and problems with diagnosis.
Big mistake. They should be
I want to talk about a couple
co-defendants.
other things. One is the matter of a battery
Exactly, Linda.
and surveillance. We believe the evidence is going to show you that whenever there was a touching of Maya Kowalski, it was done for therapeutic or clinical reasons or to comfort a child. There was never any intent to do her any harm. There was never any intent to be offensive or harmful. And we believe that at the end of all the evidence, you're going to find that there was never any point at which a reasonable person would have taken offense at how she was touched and how her care was managed in that regard. We need to talk a minute about the problems with diagnosis here. You're going to hear a lot about CRPS, conversion disorder, a number of other things. CRPS and conversion disorder and these mental diagnoses have a couple of things that are significant about them. One is that they aren't diseases in the sense that doctors use that term concretely. A disease is something you can see and you can diagnose, and there isn't any question about it. Appendicitis, most forms of cancer. There's the lab test that proves it or disproves it. If you have HIV, there's a lab test for it. If you have appendicitis, there's an imaging study that shows a hot appendix. Objective. Syndromes aren't like that. In a syndrome, you piece together a constellation of symptoms and a constellation of findings, and it's much more subjective. And that's why we have things like the Budapest criteria that counsel talked about, and you're going to hear a lot about that going forward. In this particular case, you're going to hear that there was a good deal of controversy about what this diagnosis was. When this patient came into All Children's, we did in fact admit her with a diagnosis of CRPS. And we continued to bill for that and to treat that, and we tried to transfer her with that diagnosis. But as time went on, for the same reason that CRPS was not suspected at Tampa General or at Lurie's or elsewhere, we questioned the diagnosis. And while the diagnosis was carried forward as a rule out, it was not the discharge diagnosis, although we noted in the discharge summary that it was never ruled out. Now, you're going to hear much about CRPS, but I'm going to skip past this slide because we kind of covered this. You are going to hear a lot about CRPS's rarity, and you're going to hear a lot of reasons given why we didn't believe this is CRPS. One reason was that it was presenting as a general pain syndrome involving the entire body. What's the name of the syndrome? Chronic regional pain syndrome. Doesn't usually present as whole body. You're going to hear that's vanishingly rare, if not almost unheard of. You're also going to hear that there were various presentation factors about this disease that were never really observed on a consistent basis, like decrease of hair loss, nail changes, skin asymmetric tissue changes in the skin. A lot of these observations about CRPS just weren't consistently present. There were, however, reasons to suspect conversion disorder. Now we've arrived at psychiatric or psychological issues. There's a lot of misconceptions about psychology and psychiatry and mental illness. And people act like saying it's conversion disorder or it's all in your head is some kind of epitaph.
Yeah, it is. When you're really sick and it's not in your head. It is an epitaph. Yes, it
writing down
is.
conversion disorder. They weren't trying to insult somebody. They were trying to attach a suspicion and a diagnosis to get the patient the help they needed. No one's telling this patient she doesn't have pain. What they're saying is, what their question is, what's causing it and what you do about it. And that's the central issue here in many respects, because this entire case revolves around not so much what the diagnosis is, but what the clinical treatment is. I've got a slide here in a minute that will show you this, that I'll probably skip when we get to it because now I'll take it out of order, because as usual in an opening statement, I'm way off the reservation from what I'm supposed to be doing in order. But since it's appropriate, I'll say it here. When you look and when you hear what the evidence is about the reasonable standard of care treatment for CRPS, for conversion disorder, for pain syndrome manifesting as Munchausen by proxy, for factitious disorder manifesting as a pain syndrome.
It's all bullshit. Munchausen factitious
You hear
disorder
what
is
the
bullshit.
treatment is, the clinical treatment is for all those things. Same thing. Maybe the
child
mix
didn't
differs,
have those things.
but it's basically physical therapy, occupational therapy, psychological, cognitive behavioral therapy.
But she didn't have, her
Those
mother
are the
didn't
treatments.
have
You're
it.
going to hear from experts
Jesus.
who treat this disease day in, day out, and these diseases, I should say, all of them, day in, day out, and they do it without putting the patient in a coma, without giving the patient 15, 20 times the recommended dose of ketamine over months and months and months. They do it by therapy, and the results they
People
get
have a
are
right to
stellar.
alternative therapies.
You'll
End
hear
of
that.
story.
You'll also hear that for that same set of reasons, this business about billing just isn't supported by the evidence. You're going to see the billing records. You're going to see the billing sheets. You're going to see that CRPS was an item. It was one of a number of items that was being billed for. You're going to hear that there was no change in the medical reimbursement for the billing as a result of where, in what place, whether it's 1 or 12, and that's literally how many diagnoses there were at points in this, whether it was the first diagnosis or the 6th or the 8th or the 10th, you're going to hear that the billing reimbursement never changed. And the reason for that was that while you needed a diagnosis to put on that code, what was really being billed for was the services rendered. And you'll see the billing sheets and the services that are laid out item by item, and you'll see that those didn't change either. You'll also hear.
Okay. I have to point something out about the Netflix documentaries. You guys are making comments about how Netflix needs to slow down with these documentaries. I agree in a way that I think it's not okay to put out a documentary before the trial, like in the Murdoch case. And in this case too, because people, now I haven't seen the documentary. I've really only read news reports. And from what I've read, it sounds horrific. But we know that documentaries can be misleading. I thought the Murdoch documentary was very misleading after I watched the trial. I know they made big money on it, and they're going to make big money on this one too. But the point is this. Though I believe Maya and her family, I haven't seen every single piece of evidence. Although I naturally distrust Johns Hopkins and child abuse pediatricians because of my 20 years in journalism. However, I thought that the Murdoch one on Netflix was left out stuff and wasn't, I thought that it was very slanted. And I'm sure that this one is too. They don't have anybody on the defense. Well, I think they have maybe this guy that's in it. I haven't seen it yet, like I said. And you're going to get information in documentaries that is not allowed in court because of motion in limine and all that. And that can really sway the public's opinion. And I would be interested to know when this documentary came out, because it had to have come out before the trial, before the jurors were selected, right? This trial just started today. Like, how is it, if you know there's a lawsuit in the works, how is it okay to air a documentary before the lawsuit happens? Yeah, Dilla, so many wine moms went solely off that documentary, the Murdoch case. It's so true. So true. And then if you watched the documentary before you watched the trial, you had already had your mind made up, which is why I didn't want to watch this documentary until after the trial. So I'm not sure what we're going to do. I don't know if we're going to watch it in the middle of the trial or what. And now I obviously I'm biased because I know how these hospitals work in many cases that I've studied. Now, does that mean that in every single case that they're wrong? No, it doesn't. Do I want to give them the benefit of the doubt? No. In this case, do I want them to be innocent, until proven guilty? Not really, because to me, they're guilty because I've had too much experience with these people. But that doesn't mean that we should suspend, the innocence standard. We should try to be as fair as possible and go through this trial as maybe the jury would see it. And I worry. This is why I said I think it's going to be an uphill battle for the plaintiff, because hospitals are very good at getting out of getting out of malpractice cases. And to me, this should have been a co-defendant case. It should have been the hospital and DCF. And Linda Foster says that they sued DCF, but I cannot find an article on it anywhere. I don't think they did. According to Rachel Bruno, who follows these things very carefully, she told me they have not sued the state, that they chose not to. She doesn't know why. And if they have not sued them, I'm at a loss. I think that was a big mistake. And a mistake that size could really hurt them. Dr. Hines says, if you think they're guilty, then cool, guilty, I'm with it. I do think they're guilty already. And you know me, I generally am like, let's wait for the facts. But on this one, I'm like, nah, they're guilty for sure. I know too many people, and especially in Florida, and these child abuse doctors, guilty.
None of this cost Mr. Kowalski a dime. And you also hear that the insurer who was billed for the services rendered by All Children's Hospital for 3 months of inpatient therapy, the insurer never complained. Didn't say a word. Approved the care, approved the billing. No problem. Now, you're going to hear a lot about Munchausen by proxy, and I'm going to kind of fast forward through this for one reason that we're running a little bit low one time. But the other reason is that it's a very technical thing, and it doesn't merit near the attention that it's gotten because it's been a flashpoint throughout this. There was a suspicion of Munchausen by proxy. It wasn't just All Children's suspicion. There was a concern that part of this child's condition was being fostered or encouraged by the mother. There was a concern that the mother was seeking out care that was too aggressive, that was dangerous.
This is what they did to Cindy Abzug. Textbook,
if
classic.
She were permitted to do so. That's what got this ball rolling. And I told you a few minutes ago what the evidence will show about the attempt to transfer for outpatient care, why it failed, and why, as a result of that, these investigations rolled forward. This is a slide I told you I'm going to skip because it talks about what the therapy is and how it is all of them. We talked about billing fraud, so I'm going to skip over this slide as well. Let me talk about photographs for a minute. You've heard about the photos that were taken. These photos were taken for clinical reasons. We believe the evidence will show you that they were taken pursuant to the consent that Mr. Kowalski signed when he was admitted, and which he will, I believe, admit to you he never rescinded. The purpose of the photos was to document the condition of the child. If there were skin lesions, even if they were not being documented in the nursing notes, they needed to be documented. They needed to be observed if they got worse. If there were new ones developing, we need to know that too. But the point is that they were being taken to assist in diagnosis and follow the child's condition. You heard about surveillance, the movie, surveillance video. You're going to hear that wasn't a new idea either. That also happened at Cambridge General. Why was it done? Because medical professionals wanted to know what the child's capabilities were. Now, that video is going to tell you you're going to see, we're not going to ask you to watch 42 hours of video. You're going to see grabs from that video that show several things from our standpoint. You're going to hear some of the plaintiff logs. From our standpoint, you're going to see in that video that Maya Kowalski, who's saying her legs are hypersensitive and can't be touched, saying she can't move her legs, is moving her legs in bed, moving her legs into a position that we used to call Indian style, and now we call crisscross applesauce. She was able to assume that position and hold that position voluntarily without a problem. You're also going to see and get some idea of the fact that she was not in that room for 42 hours. You'll see it. She's in and out. She went to therapy. She went to other places.
I think it's hilarious we can't call it Indian position anymore.
And assisting her when indicated to the commode.
Indian style,
Commode
very
wasn't placed
offensive.
Out of her reach for any kind of malicious purpose. It was placed in the position that it was because she had nursing staff available to help her, as you'll see they did, and because if you put it too close or in too close a position to the bedside, it would obstruct the nurse's ability to get to the bed. It was strictly a matter of happenstance. It was not a matter of intent. And that brings me to another point, and it's on this slide. You're not going to hear any evidence that the 50 some odd medical doctors and professionals who took care of Maya Kowalski over 3 months somehow banded together in some sort of cabal and hatched a plot or a conspiracy to do harm. You're just not going to hear that. You're instead going to hear from a constellation of dedicated pediatricians and dedicated specialists who are genuinely trying to do the right thing for this patient. They may have differed in some opinions with the family, but their uppermost objective was to keep this child safe and to get this child,
even if it killed her mother,
and the treatment that she needed. Now, why was the diagnosis an issue if the treatment was the same? That's a reasonable question. Let me suggest to you that the evidence is and will be that the importance of the diagnosis is the result of the fact that CRPS diagnosis was being used to justify dangerous care, dangerous levels of ketamine and other drugs that aren't even recognized in the literature. Those doctors weren't going to come get the patient. The family's going to take the patient to those doctors. And so it was important to get the diagnosis straight and the treatment straight so that the right mix of therapy could be formulated and the best job could be done to get Maya Kowalski into a position of being comfortable, functional, and lead a happy and healthy life. That's what we were attempting to do. There's never an intent to do anything but that.
Yeah, sure. You weren't trying to make sure you weren't going to get sued?
Few weeks, we think you're going to hear a number of experts in the courtroom. We'll be bringing in experts from California and elsewhere.
All kinds of very expensive experts.
Whether or not the overarching allegation against all children's and its physicians, including even Sally Smith, that they were negligent in Maya Kowalski's care and that their negligence somehow caused injury. We're going to suggest to you that, first of all, there was no
we did nothing wrong,
given the condition that she was given to us in. But more importantly, there was no deviation from the standard of care. You're going to hear from different doctors in different specialties that the care that was taken in diagnosing and treating Maya Kowalski, you're going to hear about teams of consultants. You're going to hear about meticulous investigations. You can see that Sally Smith formulated a 45-page single-space report of her review of literally thousands of medical records to come up with her diagnosis. You're going to see a lot of effort and care and expertise went in to the effort made to treat this child at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. We believe the evidence will be unequivocal. That degree of effort, insight, investigation, and monitoring and care comported in every respect with what is reasonable and what is recognized as being reasonable and appropriate by other similar physicians.
Similar? He just said similar. Oh, similar. I hate people who say similar.
Definition of medical negligence. I just kind of paraphrase it.
It's similar, sir.
The point I'm making to you is that the evidence will ultimately show
Harvey,
these doctors and these nurses and
Howard.
this hospital staff.
His name is Howard.
Acted reasonably.
Howard the Duck.
To treat a difficult and challenging case they were presented with, and they did it consistently over 3 months. They don't have to be right under the law. All they have to be is reasonable. We will suggest to you the evidence will show that first, they probably were right. But even if they weren't, they were more than reasonable. At the end of all this, at the end of all the evidence, I'll have another chance to visit with you, or my colleague, Mr. Shapiro, will. You're going to hear a lot between now and then. And again, I appreciate very much your attentiveness and your diligence, as does my client and people at All Children's Hospital. I thank you for your attention and look forward to working with you in the next few weeks. And you'll be pleased to know I skipped at least 3 slides. Thank you.
For God's sake.
May I see one of the lawyers from the side, please?
I skipped at least 3 slides of lies. You'll be happy to know that I skipped 3 slides of our outrageous lies. All right, so that is the defense's. Yeah, they don't have to be right, Kelly. They don't have to be right. No, they just have to have good intentions. But he's not wrong about that. Like, that's why legally this is a tough case for the plaintiff, because they don't have to be right. They make you sign so many waivers when you go in there.
We're going to be
You sign
letting
your
you go
life
here in a few
away,
moments.
literally.
First thing, and Debbie Coley, I told you I was going to give you all a telephone number, so Debbie Coley will give that out to you. This is so you can give to a spouse or anyone that might need to get a hold of you in an emergency. So he'll give that to you as you go. Now, was there anyone, I know I asked at the beginning of the morning, was there anyone that had an update relative to any sort of issue? Is there a note that you can send to me, or everything's fine? Glad to hear that. Okay.
All right, can we discuss the judge's hair island?
Okay, tomorrow we're going to start evidence.
I got to wait for the good
I'm
screenshot.
gonna ask the deputy to tell you exactly, where to go, but at the same time, arrival that you did today, you need tomorrow, because my goal is to bring in exactly at 9 o'clock and we'll start evidence. Remember, do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. Do not do any investigation.
Come on, show me the judge.
And with that, if you could follow the deputy, who will let you get out of here.
Hold on, we're going to speed up.
Leave your notes. Just put it in the red well, and we will take custody of them tonight. Yep. And leave them on the chairs. There's a number on there. This isn't our first rodeo.
This guy has a hair island that he's hanging on to. It's this tiny tuft of hair in the middle of a bald spot that he must comb every day.
Yesterday, when we were talking, there was some discussion about the possibility that you all wanted to spend some time with me this afternoon. So it was unclear. So do you all need to have hearing time this afternoon, or do you want time to start working on
There he is. There he is. Look at the hair island. Look at it. This poor man, he has been hanging on to that tiny little hair island for years now. I mean, good God, shave it. What are we doing here, sir? Why do you need that? Do men understand that this makes them look worse? Like, bald is great. Bald is sexy. What the hell is wrong with bald? Nothing. Nice, clean, shiny head or some stubble? That's fine. But what is this? Does this man never want to get laid? I don't understand. I'm sorry. I can't help myself. What is this man's name? It's gotta go. It's gotta go. Judge Baby Huey. Oh my God, that's his new name. It's Baby Huey. We have to put some pressure on this man, some social pressure to get rid of that during the course of this trial. We have a few weeks, folks. I think we can do it. I think a few nicely worded letters of encouragement, just to say, sir, you don't need that. You're a handsome, good-looking man, sort of. And you, to someone, somewhere, and you can look just fine without that. It's a flap. It's a hair flap. This is not good. Where are we going? Where are we going with this?
Presentations and questions for tomorrow.
Both. We're not going to be able to do that. Judge, we have a lot of work to do, but we would like to know if there's a way to time it so that we can send over the exhibits we intend to put in to both the court and opposing counsel within the next few hours. And then if there's going to be some objection or something, if there's any possible way of either later on today or tomorrow, I'm happy to come in and bring witness after witness and spend the time on the on foundation predicate and so forth. But it's a colossal waste of time for things like photographs and most of the other records.
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
I'm asking for the court's advice and direction in terms of getting in a procedure for getting our exhibits in tomorrow in the most efficient way. I would like to provide defense counsel with a list of them pronto and require them to get back with any specific objections or stipulations so that I know by the end of the day how to time my case in terms of asking for a foundation predicate introduction questions to my witnesses.
So you mean like which specific exhibit you're going to tell them? Because my understanding is we've got 80-something binders of exhibits here that you all have submitted. And so some are agreed to and others are not.
Correct.
So
the not agreed to ones, I think what the court will find is the vast majority of our medical records. But when it came to most of our case, the photographs, videos, anything else other than medical records, there are objections. Except I don't know what the basis is for those objections, and we've never had a chance to talk about it.
How can they be in opening statements and they don't have their exhibits submitted to the court yet? This is not good. That they haven't worked out the objections from the defense yet? I don't This makes me nervous.
We had representations that we would get those back. We still don't know what their position is on it. We have trimmed down 3 times at the court's suggestion, at council's suggestion. We have provided responses already to propose to what we think may be an objection.
What time are you suggesting that you're going to actually let the defense know what exhibits you intend to use tomorrow?
3:30, 4 o'clock would be good. And if we would know back by 5, Judge, these things have been around for years and years.
Well, Mr. Anderson, it's the same issue we've been having over and over and over again. Until you tell them specifically what you're doing, you can't ask them to say, there's 4,000 exhibits. Tell us which ones you have an objection.
Yeah,
You
that's
can't
crazy.
do that. So I'm not hearing Mr. Whitney say
That's
4 o'clock,
crazy.
and then you want them to return
In
in
an hour?
So, I mean, it would seem to me like you really should be telling them, just like with the witnesses, by lunchtime. And maybe you can't do it today, but really in the future, perhaps what we need to do is by lunchtime, coming back from lunch, letting them, the other side know, because that's what we're doing with witnesses. And then, so are you able to do it before 4 o'clock today?
Yes, and I want to emphasize to the court, we're not talking about a vast amount. I would say 30, we don't know yet, but I was estimating 30 to 35, and these are photographs and things that are going into the witnesses tomorrow.
Well, again, to the extent that you're going to be using them, the earlier you can tell the other side, the earlier you're going to get a response.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Well, he
as simple as
says
that.
they didn't get a response. So when did
Judge,
you?
I know everybody likes argument on these things, and that is required if asked. Is there any way that if we can receive back concise objections, that the court can be informed and we can provide the court with either the base number or email over to you the actual exhibits, not, it's a photograph, just a Xerox of it, however the court would like it, so that you would be advised, we would have the objection. And for those, hopefully they stipulate most of them. For those that they don't, the court would be pre-prepared and perhaps let us know if we need, more time or what. I just want to take advantage of the time I have and not waste it.
Ms. Carlos.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think I just addressed briefly the criticism of the defense. They've never narrowed the witnesses down. There's still 787. Beyond that, they're photographs instead of, all they did was make a composite exhibit, but there's hundreds of them. So, and we most likely will be objecting to the audio recordings. We have told them that over and over again. And we have indicated on their exhibit list what our objections are. Hearsay, 403. I mean, I don't know what they mean by the specific objections. These are our objections. So we're happy to look at the 30 exhibits, if there's really 30 and not 330 exhibits they sent over today, and again, advise them one way or the other if we will agree or not agree. Happy to do that. If they want to send us 30 exhibits and say, these are the ones we want to use tomorrow, we will review them and give them our response.
Well, on a going forward basis, and this goes for both sides, please, by the time we come back from lunch, tell the other side the witnesses you're going to be using and the exhibits you're going to be using on the following day. Now, for purposes of today, Mr. Anderson, get whatever you can over as soon as you can, and the defense, I'm sure, will get it to you. But it sounds like if it's not going to be in time for me to convene a hearing this afternoon.
Yeah, how
get
can?
them over?
Yeah, when do you hear
So
these?
it sounds like tomorrow. So what time? If I am here at 8:30, that gives us 30 minutes of time before the. What I do not want to have happen is the jury sitting in the back room because we didn't have our ducks in a row.
Why
So if we
didn't
need to
they
start
do this
earlier
in
than 8:30, I'd
pretrial?
rather start earlier than 8:30 so that the jury does not get inconvenienced.
Like,
Can we remain in touch with the court? We don't want to underestimate. Can we remain in touch with the court? And can we, by email, I know your rule, can we keep the court apprised by each side sending in for us the exhibits, them the objections, and our estimate of the time?
Judge, if we don't get them till 4, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I thought y'all were gonna get the script to me around 5 o'clock. It was 9:15 last night. And I understand, I was a trial attorney too. I understand you have a tremendous amount of things going on. It's just, I'm concerned that you're not gonna get things in time for us to have a hearing this afternoon. So I think it's gonna have to be tomorrow morning. I am fine reviewing things ahead of time like I did with the things that were tendered last night. And to the extent that I need to respond like I did last night, I will respond. And we'll use that email address that we used last night. But I do not want this to become a daily habit where I'm having to email correspondence with you all at 10 o'clock at night. I just don't think that's good for anyone.
is this normal?
I would try to avoid doing.
I need one of my lawyer friends to tell me
So,
if it is
what time do you
normal
realistically think, Mr. Whitney?
to not have your exhibits already submitted to the defense and have already hashed out your objections to them. I mean, I realized when we were watching the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, there were some objections to exhibits or, evidence that they wanted to submit, but it wasn't anywhere near 35 things. They had already had that like worked out. And then there would be specific objections about this or that. But I mean, in that case, had thousands of exhibits, thousands. I would imagine this one does too. And they're going to object to medical records. Like they haven't already done that in the pretrial. I'm shocked by this. That's going to take a lot of time because doesn't the judge, like he said, have to have a hearing about that to decide whether or not he's going to allow something in, or is he going to make these decisions right there on the fly? I mean, it's a lot of evidence to just, leave up to last minute. I don't know.
That you can get them. since I know Mr. Anderson's asking, writing checks off of your back. So
5 p.m. is fine. And I understand an hour for them to respond is not reasonable, but if we get a response, that's about 4 hours for us. If they could have 4 hours and get us responses by 9 o'clock, and then we can have some hearing time in the morning.
is there any way I can get you to give it to them by like 3, which is 2 hours, 15 minutes from now?
We do it in a couple tranches. We'll give them as many as possible by 3 and then follow up. And if a half hour later, we've got a few more.
How do you want them disposed?
Judge, I don't know that it matters. I think ultimately we're going to need some hearing time in the morning. I think that I don't think we should bother the court with it overnight. I think we'll exchange what we can exchange. We'll come in the morning. You'll know which ones we object to, and we have a 30-minute hearing.
Well, so you're okay with them sending them in waves? Okay, so send them in waves to the extent that you can.
Reavertone, you're asking what time is opening shift for me tomorrow? 10:30. Yeah, it's not real early. Thank goodness. I got to get the kids off to school, and then I'll be headed over to open the restaurant at 10:30.
What time, Mr. Altenburg, you look like you need to say something.
There are a couple. Well, first of all, I'm happy to work on jury instructions with the convenience of the court. A lot of that looks like it can wait.
I'm thinking Wednesday morning is probably, or sometime on Wednesday.
Well, the openings caused me to have a couple of concerns, and I would be happy to file a brief memo so that we could have that early on. But the two concerns are, first, they began their opening, and they've talked a lot about the period in 2015 before October 7th. And discussions that suggest to me that they're thinking of proving a malpractice for failure to diagnose that. And that's not pled. It would have been outside the statute of limitations if it had been filed. And so I just don't want to start having a case going forward on evidence of something that is not really an issue within the pleadings. And the second thing is, it appears from their strategy of not discussing the DCF proceeding hardly at all that it's no longer that we cause DCF to have bad visiting policies. And I guess the orders become sort of an affirmative defense now from this, which is fine with me if we have this affirmative defense. I just need to kind of understand how we're going to be going forward on the Chapter 39 issues that seem to take a different twist this morning than I was envisioning.
Given Mr. Elliott's motion about 10 days ago, I kind of assumed that was their change.
I wasn't certain whether that was their change or how they were going forward, but now it's clear.
But, okay, so how much time tomorrow do we need? Do I start court at 8:30? Do I start at 8:15? Do I start at
8:15 probably would be best. And then because the jury's going with the goal of getting the jury in at 9.
I want the jury walking in this door at 9 a.m.
That's 8:15.
That's fine.
Let's go over the schedule again. Friday is a day that we're having.
It's not me,
So
it's
the
the
court
court.
will be closed on Monday. We will have evidence on Tuesday. We might have legal arguments on Wednesday morning, but no jury on Wednesday. And we'll have a jury with us on Thursday and Friday. So next week, we'll have a jury with us Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
All right, so Tuesday maybe I can
One
do
other,
it live, but
note,
we'll see.
As far as the Zoom and the rule of sequestration, technically, I don't think either side has actually invoked it, but I assume one side is. You're invoking it?
Yes, and I have a couple of corollaries to that when the court's ready.
Okay, let me finish. The way I'm running Zoom for the security settings, I don't have any control over who comes in.
Oh shit,
So
they're gonna get Zoom
if you all
bombed.
are going to invoke the rule of sequestration, you have to, and I'm going to specifically direct each side to tell your witnesses that they are prohibited from monitoring the trial. So are we invoking the rule of sequestration?
Plans move to invoke the rule.
Okay.
Two corollaries to it, one well-known, the other one I think case law supports. Kyle Kowalski as a beneficiary traditionally are treated as parties for the purposes of the rule. So I'm hoping there won't be any problem with him staying in.
We didn't vote the rule, Judge.
I'm sorry?
We didn't vote the rule.
Well, if the rule's been invoked, then Kyle Kowalski's not a party. And so would be covered by the rule of sequestration, unless the other side agrees.
So they are invoking the rule to exclude one of the beneficiaries, a 15-year-old child. Am I clear on that, counsel?
Yes.
What?
And the second then is judge has to experts. Traditionally, experts are exempted from the rule to the extent that they are necessary to take in testimony or evidence upon which they will comment later in the trial.
And when you say experts, are we talking about those people that were specifically identified as experts on the witness list as opposed to a more generic description of expert?
In this case, Your Honor, our idea were true retained experts, although based on the court's rulings, there's a lot of what we're traditionally known as non-retained experts that have been through the litigation treated as experts.
Which is why I'm asking the question.
And so everyone is non-retained, right? Anyone who's an, we're invoking the rule as to anyone who is not a non-retained. If you're a retained expert, yes. If you're non-retained, no.
Uh-oh. They don't like this.
Both retained and non-retained experts to be allowed to observe, and both sides have retained, both sides have non-retained experts on those lists that you mentioned.
When you say a non-retained expert, are you talking about somebody that you did not designate on your witness list as an expert?
No, we're talking about the treating physicians that we had a hearing over where there was a determination of whether they were one or the other.
The expert lists that were filed on both sides named both retained and non-retained experts. So I'm talking about both categories, Your Honor.
This is not going well for
What
them.
we're talking about here.
I'm trying to figure that out.
Oh my God.
Um,
I'm nervous.
My only comment at this point where we're
The
kind of
judge is
losing
laughing
the
at
nerve
them.
stage is that if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And we're going to, the reason I say that is we're going to have doctors who want to watch. We're also going to have doctors who are in and out as corporate representatives. So, and many of these same doctors will be asked expert opinions on the stand, even though they were arrived in the course and scope of their treatment, and even though they're not experts.
Well, I would suggest that both sides discuss with each other and see if you can come to an agreement, because ultimately, I'm either going to do one of two things if you can. Either it's going to be no one is allowed, period, the end, because it's going to be easier to enforce, or it's going to be only those that were specifically identified as an expert on the actual most recent expert list. It's going to be one of those two. Probably the former, but I could probably be talking to the latter, unless you all can agree otherwise. And I think it's, instead of a broad category, I think you need to sharpen the pencil and say this person, this person, this person, and this person.
So Judge, for the record, we are objecting to rotating corporate representatives. They should designate one representative. They've invoked the rule. They will not let Kyle Kowalski in. We believe that under the rule, they can substitute a corporate representative, but not on a rotating basis, and it has to be after they have testified, so that they don't use that as a means of just bringing people in to listen to the testimony.
And I will tell you, there is some that argument's resonating with me. So perhaps what you all can do is discuss that as well, and see if there's an accommodation that can be made on either side relative to your corporate reps and Kyle Kowalski.
So they're keeping her brother, Kyle, out.
What's next?
So he's not allowed to watch the trial because he's a witness. But he's also a victim.
I've done this both ways, and I prefer to work something out.
And I hope so, because I feel like I've already spent more time on the rule of sequestration in this case in the last 5-10 minutes than I have in any other case ever. So let's see if you can work it out amongst yourselves.
Normally, if you're a victim and a witness, you get to watch the whole thing. Yeah.
I'm hopeful we're going to have a very smooth professional trial. That's what I expect of both sides. and nothing less is going to be tolerated. 8:15 tomorrow morning, we will start with legal arguments with the goal of having the jury walk in at 9 a.m. The court deputies will open the courtroom at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, and I'll try to have the Zoom open and as well at that time. And I promise to try to remember to turn on the microphone this time. Okay. Have a good day, everybody. We'll be in recess.
All right. Well, I might be able to cover at that 8 a.m. tomorrow. Oh, wait, it's Florida. Yeah, that's my time. So I might be able to cover at least the first arguments where we get to hear them, argue about evidence in the morning. I don't have to leave my house until 10 o'clock, approximately. So we could get maybe 2 hours in tomorrow, and then I can catch up with whatever we missed at a later time. All right. That was it. We're done with the with day one. So what's next? What time is it? Oh, it's too late for me to do a local stream after. So we're going to have to wait on Tales from the Restaurant until another time. But you guys sign up on locals because you don't want to miss those. I have so many great tales to tell from going back to the restaurant industry, and I am dying to tell it. But I do have a long shift tomorrow. So let's try and be back here at 8 a.m. Okay? Try and get back here at 8 a.m. for the first 2 hours of whatever the hell they're going to argue about, which is evidence coming in and other things, because this is interesting to me. And I'm going to, in the meantime, maybe I can get Steve Gosney to jump on with us in the morning. I haven't seen Steve in a while, and he's usually always up for it. And he can answer some of our legal questions that we have. I really appreciate you guys being here. Thanks so much for being on Locals and on Rumble and for supporting this show and sending your rants and Venmos and Cash Apps. I appreciate it. I appreciate every single one. How you guys doing over there on Rumble? I got to check you out. Did I miss any rants? I don't think so. And Locals, my ride or die, my squat squad, I love you. And you know what? That reminds me, I have not done my squats and my back's feeling a little stiff, and you haven't either. And we've been sitting here for 2 hours, and that's unacceptable. It just is. We got to get our blood flowing. It's unacceptable. We got to do your squats. So instead of saying goodbye with a regular song, I'm going to say goodbye with a good old-fashioned Nick Rekieta shaming, and we're going to get up and we're going to do your squats. Let's go. See you tomorrow, 8 a.m.
You impose fatness on you. You did it by going, oh, I want the butter on the popcorn. Oh, I want the butter on the ice cream. Oh, I want the butter on the sandwich. Oh, I want the butter on the salad. Stop eating butter. Can you just get up, walk 1 mile? Do squat! Walk farther. And if you can't walk, crawl, roll, get dragged by a goddamn forklift. Whatever is wrong with you, just move. Ever. Get off the chair. Get off the couch. No one is coming to service you while you sink into that furniture, while you become one with the pleather your poor ass got on that Walmart couch. Can you try not floating into sadness? Stop eating, stop drinking, start walking, start doing anything that you haven't been doing, you fat piece of shit.